Namaste and welcome, dear audience, in this brand new episode of our program Guest in Town. It's me, your host, Rohan Srestha. Today, we are going to focus on entrepreneurship, Nepal, technology, and youth empowerment. For this, we have Mr. Nick Feneck, and he is the Seedstars World's Associate for Asia. Let me welcome him. Welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
This is the first visit. Tell us something about Nepal and Nepali people. How did you feel?
So I felt very welcomed. So I've always been interested in coming to Nepal because I'm a very active person, and obviously the tourism industry is huge. From the moment I got off the plane, I was greeted with such generosity. People have been very friendly here, really tried to show me exactly what makes the ecosystem tick, as well as showing me some of the tourist spots too.
Okay. You are here for the Seedstars World competition.
Right.
What kind of competition is this?
So this is a global startup competition for early stage startups in tech. So these startups are no more than 2 years old, no more than 500,000 USD investment.
Can you please highlight something more how you have been working? Because now you are in Kathmandu, and after this, while surfing the net of the online portal of this Seedstars World, I found that sometime in Cairo, sometime in Dhaka, sometime in Bangladesh. What kind of, how you have been working?
Right, so the global startup competition is focusing in emerging and frontier markets. So we're split into 4 regional teams. I myself am managing Asia with my colleague, and we basically are in 17 of these markets. We host these pitching competitions in cities that represent the ecosystem. So while this event was in Kathmandu, the idea is it attracted startups from all over Nepal.
Okay. So can you please highlight something on this competition in Nepal? Who won the competition, and what was the criteria of selection?
Right, so
from the beginning to this,
sure,
to finale.
Okay, so we put a public call out with our partners, so with MIC Nepal, on social media, in some of our press contacts. We got around 60 applications. The ones that were selected, 8 were selected to pitch. They were selected on the basis of the problem that they were solving, the scalable reach, the team dynamics, and the unit economics. So what kind of traction are they having?
Okay.
The winner was a company called Visualize VR. It was a VR/.
It was the company.
Yes. So they're a virtual reality / augmented reality platform that's basically designed to help businesses with advertising. But the idea is that it's not sector specific. So actually this has a very scalable appeal, scalable reach. They can replicate this model sort of throughout the region, and they're not tied down to one sector industry. So that was very important.
Okay. What was the core criteria that was kept in mind while doing the selection?
So as I said, during the selection was the pain intensity, so how much of a problem this is, but also the opportunity, so how much of an investable option this is. So at Seedstars, we're looking for investable solutions, not non-profits, things that actually can make money, because we think that has the greatest impact. So when we selected Visualize VR, it was the fact that they had a product that was relatively untapped in this kind of area of the world, that actually could provide benefits and services to a wide range of companies.
Can you please say something about that kind of that concept which won this competition in Nepal?
So it was more the fact that they've already got a product in the market that's got around 1,200 users. They've already got early traction.
What kind of product?
It's a VR app for children. So it's basically getting kids involved with VR, which is very important because it inspires the next generation of entrepreneurs. But also, they've got an office in New York as well as Kathmandu. So the idea is they can scale in different areas, both in South Asia, but also in the West.
Okay.
So, and they also have partners in different sectors. So it's not just advertising. It's not just service-based industry. It's actually a whole selection.
Now, how are they going to fight globally?
They will need to have some pretty strong partners on board. So companies that we think will really benefit their services. So companies that will help them tap into these markets, that will help them approach new businesses. I think it would be beneficial if they try and land a multinational corporation, because then they can use that to enter different markets.
So you are going to fund them?
No. So the idea is that they've now received an all expenses paid trip to Switzerland to compete in the global summits.
Right.
That takes place in April next year. They compete against 65 startups from 65 countries for equity investments. But during the week-long event or summit, they also get put through a boot camp where they'll receive mentoring, they'll meet with experts within their sector, so VR experts, as well as an investor matching platform. So the idea is it's a very absorbing process, and they'll learn a lot of skills to take back to their ecosystem and try and I guess, train or at least enlighten the new generation.
I want you to say something on this Seedstar company itself. It's an organization, isn't it? It's an organization of youth. Can you please say something on it?
Right, so the company's Swiss. It was founded in 2012. Its founders are now split between Lagos, Nigeria, and still Switzerland, Geneva. We have got a very young team. The average age is sort of late 20s, I believe. The idea is that a lot of ambition. Everyone is entrepreneurial by nature. Everyone's very ambitious. Everyone's really trying to. Everyone understands startups. Our model is completely startup-centric. So everyone understands what makes these startups tick and how we can add value. Because we also double up in providing an acceleration program through the growth program and Seed Space, which is a network of...
It was started in 2012, isn't it?
Started in 2012.
And it's been to 2016. So how do you analyze this time frame?
Oh, the growth has been phenomenal. So we started off in the first year, we were in 20 countries. We then, in the space of 3 years, have scaled up to 65 countries. So the idea is that we're really trying to expand and enter new markets. And we're offering new products. So we're not just offering, say, the competition, we're now offering co-working spaces, venture building, academies, which is designed to train up entrepreneurs and get them tackling real issues.
How it has been managing all?
It's basically through our network. The value we provide is through our network. It's through local partners. So the event in Nepal was a great example of this. We worked with MIC Nepal and they helped us put on this event. Without our local partners, we can't be plugged into the ecosystems because we're not physically there. So now our network is vast and it's growing sort of event by event. And the idea is that we can keep on offering value to our partners whilst also reaping the rewards of their expertise.
Tell us something about your experience, your association with Seedstar.
So I've been working for them for about 7 months. It's an incredibly steep learning curve, but it's one that it's a great opportunity to be able to tackle. You really are understanding what makes different ecosystems tick. You understand the differences between certain markets. You understand where startups are successful and where others might have failed. And you really speak to the people, the entrepreneurs behind the scenes, and understand what are the issues that they've come through to be able to sort of create these startups.
Can I ask you how the concept emerged?
The concept emerged, as I said, with the Swiss founders when they realized that this was that actually there was no way of bringing startups to a centralized sort of source. There was no way of going around the world, finding these startups, creating deal flow for our investors who were then in physically one location, in this case Switzerland. So they realized that talent is everywhere. And our vision is to connect local talent to our international and global audience via events and via the Seedstars Summit, which takes place in Switzerland.
Do you want to share some really very beautiful moments with Seedstar?
So Nepal, for example, has been great because everyone's so passionate and enthusiastic about what's going on. So entrepreneurship and the ecosystem is very young in Nepal. So it means all of the entrepreneurs are either students or fresh graduates. And they're so committed to really trying to make startups that actually have a social impact. So social impact is something it's not what we directly look for, but it's indirectly built into the platform. And because these startups actually change the way that people live. And then in terms of specific examples, we have startups in agri-tech that are helping connect farmers to consumers. We have startups in healthcare that are connecting sort of services to to patients. We have there's a great startup in Malaysia where basically it's helping migrants who don't have banking facilities to sort of source finance.
How do you connect this? Because since you have been saying that entrepreneurship and ecosystem, how do you connect with this ecosystem and entrepreneurship?
So ecosystem is basically what all the parts within it. So that's not just the startups, not just the entrepreneurs, but it's also investors, it's the corporates who are passionate about entrepreneurship, it's the media that wants to sort of host this and sort of cover it, and it's perhaps the government if they want to support it. Entrepreneurship is obviously the innovation. It's the guys who are really creating these products. And the idea is you promote the ecosystem, and in that way, hopefully entrepreneurship can foster.
How this kind of program motivates youth or, let's say, young entrepreneurs?
It's about giving them an option to really take control. I really strongly believe that. So entrepreneurship in a lot of these places is not seen as a viable career choice, or it wasn't. Now it's becoming increasingly more active. So students realize they're not just shackled to go down the corporate route or to go down to a traditional job opportunity. They can create a startup, and that startup can really go places.
Okay. While working with this Nepal, the country Nepal, the Nepalese youth, how did you find them? what kind of sentiment was there among this Nepalese youth regarding entrepreneurship?
We look a lot in the team. A lot of early stage investors will say that the team is a very important part of the process. So we look for a team that not only is qualified and they have to have technical expertise, but also really passionate about what they do. That way we can compare a startup in, say, healthcare to a startup in e-commerce to a startup in fintech, and really understand, okay, where sort of is which is the best startups between them, by understanding what's the vision of these people. So the youth in Nepal are very, very passionate about really wanting to make a difference.
So you are really very, very happy with the youth in Nepal?
Definitely, definitely. In terms of technical talent...
Can you please compare which countries you have been working with, Asian countries?
So everywhere from South Asia to Southeast Asia to parts of the Far East to parts of Australasia. So in South Asia, for example, we're in Pakistan, India, Bangladesh and Sri Lanka. Pakistan is the only one left to come.
South Asian countries. Can you please share some experience with those countries?
India is a lot more mature than Nepal. All factors are a bit more established. There's been a growing sense of entrepreneurship in India. There's a stronger investor network. The corporates and the government are more progressive with it as well. But the idea is actually there's less opportunities, in my opinion, because there's so many products that are so similar in India. Whereas places like Sri Lanka and Nepal, these are very young ecosystems, but actually there's a lot of talent there and there's a lot of opportunities.
What kind of opportunities you are talking about?
So basically areas that haven't already been tapped up by a local product. So take Nepal, for example. There isn't Uber, there isn't Grab Taxi, there isn't an automated taxi service. Now that's already an opportunity for someone really to penetrate that market because it doesn't already exist. So whereas in India you have these kind of established startups already creating this value, in places like Nepal there's still that opportunity. And it takes one entrepreneur to do so.
How can one cash those opportunities?
Well, the idea is that they can make a product that suddenly gets a large amount of users, that they can make an app that then, because penetration of internet is so good in places like Nepal, actually everyone's got a smartphone, everyone can download it and everyone can use it. It's about replacing what they would do in their normal lives with a much easier, quicker and cheaper option. And that way they can make
it depends upon the individual or the governmental policy as well, to explore those opportunities.
Both. We like, don't get me wrong, we like a high-level support from either the government or the corporates, but ultimately there has to have, it has to come from the grassroots up. It has to have the students and the young people really engaged with entrepreneurship, because if you don't have that, then it's actually a stagnant ecosystem.
How do you analyze the sentiment of Nepalese youth, or let's say the youth of the globe, regarding entrepreneurship?
I think there's never been a better time to be an entrepreneur as a young person. I think the opportunities are greater, the access to funding is greater, the self-belief, which is a massive component about actually saying you can make a startup and you really can find the right partners to support you. And obviously we live in a hyper-connected world, so you can ask for feedback internationally just by going on social media, by looking up mentors, by trying to understand about how they can add value.
Do you want to compare the sentiment of youth in Nepal, in the countries like Nepal, the less developed countries like Nepal, and the developed countries?
So, in the developed countries, there's a lot more confidence, there's a lot more self-belief. There's a lot more opportunities for support, of course, but also the main thing is that people in, say, in my example, for example, of Singapore, Korea, Hong Kong, in these markets, the youth know that entrepreneurship is there and actually they can make a startup that can grow into a successful business very easily. In Nepal, yes, the entrepreneurs that they have are very ambitious, but it's still a very small part of the ecosystem.
Do you think that Nepal is a suitable place for doing business or for entrepreneurs, for the emerging entrepreneurs?
It's hard to say. I've only been here a week, but for me, I haven't had a problem in terms of working in Nepal. The Wi-Fi has been quick and stable. The amount of people I've been speaking to who are passionate about furthering the ecosystem has been vast. And I think that the educational facilities, such as the universities, are bringing about the technical talent. So all those points are aligning. Plus you have international organizations coming in and providing support, either from Bangladesh or Thailand or Korea. So there's certainly, it's fostering a great environment.
It is said that the political transition, since Nepal is in a political transition phase, it is said that political transition hampers this economic environment, entrepreneurship environment. Do you believe it or not?
To some extent. So the idea is that we think governments should be supportive of entrepreneurship as possible. Korea is a great example of that. They really are very supportive of trying to create startups, really support those startups. But then you have economies like China, for example, which is a similar type of government to, say, Nepal, but what they've taken is a more standoffish approach. So they basically say we're not going to engage with entrepreneurship, but hopefully...
But China is a developed country, isn't it?
It is, but it still has that. They're still very young in terms of an ecosystem. So the startups in China are now, there's more unicorns in China than probably anywhere else in the world. The amount of startups and value has been created. However, it is still a communist country. So the idea is that the government are actually taking a hands-off approach with entrepreneurship, and that itself is allowing entrepreneurs to still act freely. We think that's probably the best approach for Nepal, to take a very hands-off approach, unless they want to be super supportive, and then they can sponsor kind of organizations, educational opportunities, these kind of things.
How do you analyze the governmental role, governmental policy for strengthening this entrepreneurship?
In my opinion, I think the government should be as supportive as possible. I think it should create, it should provide grants. I think it should provide networking opportunities through events. I think it should be able to co-back with the private sector, accelerators, incubators, co-working spaces. I think that's the best benefit a society can have.
Entrepreneurship and technology, how do you relate it?
So I think we live in this day and age where technology...
How this technology is going to boost entrepreneurs.
Right, so technology is now a fundamental part of entrepreneurship.
Right.
At Seedstars, we only look for tech startups. The reason being is because tech startups can scale very quickly. They have very little overheads and costs to set up and perhaps to manage, and all it takes is traction, and they can really sort of advance and progress into the region. So we think that technology is a fundamental part of how people can improve their lives and use that with entrepreneurship.
Technology in the backdrop of Nepal, since Nepal is the illiteracy rate in Nepal is very high. Similarly, the socio-economic condition of Nepal is not so satisfactory. In this backdrop, how do you analyze the growth of technology in Nepal?
Well, the idea is that technology can assist in all these kind of needs, for example. So the third runner-up was in Nepal was a startup called Chisviz by Ultimate Solution. It's an agri-tech startup that connects farmers to consumers. Now the idea is you're using technology to be able to assist rural communities in the production of their daily the daily produce that then can give them more competitive rates.
Don't you think that this illiteracy rate in Nepal creates a problem to boost the technology among those people, those needy people, those farmers, let's say, and the grassroots people?
Yes, but I agree, but at the same time, the human condition is very resilient. So the idea is that people can learn how to use technology very easily. A lot of these apps are very simple to use. They say 3-4 clicks and they manage to secure their service or product. And we think it doesn't act as too much of a hindrance. You don't need to be literate to be tech savvy.
Risk management in business.
You surround yourself with the best quality mentors you can. So not only through organizations and mentor networks, but also through your peers. Make sure you communicate with the other startups, understand what they're going through, and you can really try and mitigate and protect yourself against risk as much as possible. The idea is you want to keep your costs as low as possible and make sure that you've got a long enough runway to survive if you're not making revenues from day one.
At last, if you want to say something to the Nepalese youth, Nepalese young entrepreneurs, then you are free to.
Sure, I'd say that these guys need to keep on addressing these issues. They need to keep on seeing these opportunities that they can really add value. They can create long-lasting social impact, and in that way they can sort of try and promote social mobility in the country and get this sort of ecosystem on the international stage.
Well, thanks, Nick. Thank you so much that you give us your time and your valuable opinions.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks to you as well, the audience, for your time. Do stay with us for more news and entertainment packages. Keep watching Himalaya Television. Namaste.